Shadowlands is right around the corner. And there's a lot of systems and a lot of confusion on what to do. Let's sort it out together. Shadowlands comes out globally November 24th, and for us Americans, November 23rd. And there's a lot to this expansion. There are layers upon layers of different systems, and they've changed a lot over the course of the alpha and the beta, and that's led to a lot of confusion for a lot of players, myself included. Actually, there's multiple times where I'm asking people in my guild, like, wait, what how does the conduit interact with the soulbind, and where do I get these things, and what do I need to do? And I find myself often overwhelmed by all the information ahead of me. So I decided, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to break the information up into manageable segments and then see what we can accomplish in certain blocks of time. So today, we're just going to take a look at everything to do up until Mythic releases. There's a couple of big picture items. You're going to need to cap your Soul Ash every week for your Legendary. You're going to need to do Mythic Zero World Tours. And you're going to need a rep farm for your Legendary recipes. And you're going to need to increase the renown with your guild, with your Covenant system. Let's talk about each one of those big picture items a little bit more specifically, help narrow it down a little bit, because again, they are just big blocks of information that don't mean anything by their own. So in case you're unfamiliar with the Legendary system as a whole in Shadowlands, Legendaries are going to be crafted items that you can get from the major professions. One of the main ingredients in creating your Legendary is called Soul Ash. Now, Soul Ash is a currency that is available from the Torghast Tower content that is going to be available in Shadowlands. It's going to be available at level 50, level 60. Level 50 has been in my brain. You're going to be able to get up to 1,200 Soul Ash a week. Now, a Legendary costs 1,250 Soul Ash, 1,250 Soul Ash. So the 1,200 that you get each week isn't going to be enough to make one Legendary item, but the opening quest line for Torghast actually gives you 800. So the first week cap of your Soul Ash plus the opening quest line gives you 2,050. So you're going to be able to make a Legendary week 1 in the Shadowlands, which is really cool. There are 4 levels of Legendaries that we need to talk about a little bit. Level 1 costs 1,250. Level 2 costs 2,000 Soul Ash. Level 3 costs 3,200, and level 4 costs 4,150. Your Shadowlands Legendary has 4 different levels that correspond with the Soul Ash that I just listed. As you get more Soul Ash, you can power up your Legendary, or you can make a brand new Legendary depending on what your objectives are. If you're a dual spec like Druid and you want a healing Legendary and you want a DPS Legendary, well then great, you can make one of each and level them up simultaneously. Or you could say, I'm going to level up my healing Legendary all the way because I need it for raid, or I'm going to level up my DPS one all the way because I need it for killing mobs. Unlike Covenants, there is no catch-up system yet in place for the Soul Ash system. So if you don't cap your Soul Ash week 1, you've just missed out on 1,250 Soul Ash. That's going to be pretty stressful for the American Thanksgiving holiday. That is the same week of release. I know that's usually at least a one-day holiday, sometimes 2 to 3 for people. So if you have to prioritize absolutely anything and say, I've got to do one thing after getting max level, I would say make sure you get your Soul Ash out of Torghast. To get this maximum level of Torghast, you're going to have to do 8 layers of Torghast runs in the 2 separate wings that exist. Layers kind of function as difficulty ratings, while the wings are more like dungeons inside Torghast proper. Once you complete layer 1 of a particular wing, you can go do layer 2, layer 3. You have to go all the way through. So the first week, you're going to do 8 floors of Torghast times 2 different wings. So 16 different Torghast runs to cap your Legendary Soul Ash requirement. It's going to take you a little bit of time, and like I said, that is going to be stressful on the American holiday week. But if you have limited time to play and you need to get something done, I would encourage you to get your Soul Ash because it is not a catch-up requirement. If that seems confusing, there is a link down in the description below from a Wowhead article that goes way more in depth and way more in detail. And again, this isn't everything that you need to know about Legendaries and Soul Ash, but these are the things that you need to do in the first 2 weeks to get yourself ready for Mythic Season 1 and for Heroic Week of Castle Nathria. Second big picture thing that we're talking about is your Mythic +0 World Tours. Now, because the Mythic Plus dungeons don't open up until December 8th, all you're going to have access to is normal, heroic, and Mythic 0 dungeons. Now, we have 2 full lockouts to take care of, which means that you can get 2 full loot cycles from the Mythic plus 0 dungeons. Mythic plus 0 dungeons are on a weekly lockout as opposed to like Mythic plus dungeons don't have a loot lockout, but Mythic plus 0 does have a loot lockout. So you can do each dungeon once a week for a loot chance, which means that you have each dungeon twice for a loot chance. I've got a checklist for you. Again, it's going to help you track your progress if you're just trying to get it done, if your guildies are trying to just make sure that you do every dungeon. But make sure you do every dungeon once a week. Now, this isn't the most important thing because this gear will quickly come to you once Mythic Plus Season 1 opens. But if you're going to hit the ground running on Tuesday when Heroic opens, you might want to have some of the best gear possible to you from Mythic Zeros. Again, not an absolute requirement depending on your skill level or what your guild is going to be doing, and it's a very cuttable thing if you're going to be caught up by the holidays, but it is one of the things that you can do to optimize in these first 2 weeks of Shadowlands. Another piece of optimization we have to consider during the first 2 weeks of Shadowlands is reputation farming for your legendary recipe. Now, legendary recipes drop from a variety of sources, including the Great Vault every week, dungeon bosses, raid bosses, the honor vendor, and some of them, unfortunately, are gated, yes, through reputation. If one of your BIS legendaries is one of the general legendaries and not a class-specific one, it is likely either going to be gated behind honor or some type of reputation. Now, for most specs, your class legendary, your best legendary is going to be a class-specific legendary, but for those of you that want to dabble in the general legendaries or want to maybe test some of those things, you are going to have to do a little bit of a rep grind. Now, rep comes most easily from doing world quests, pet battles. There are certain rewards from your mission table that will reward you rep. Now, the rep requirements are only honored, so it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to be a slog early, but it's worth knowing in the first 2 weeks when you're going to have limited world quests, limited ways of getting rep, that you should be focusing on knocking out those world quests early. Again, this only really applies if your best in slot legendary is a general legendary. Fortunately, I don't know if there are any, but there's certainly the minority, if there are, of classes that have a BIS general legendary. Again, if you're looking for where are the resources to show me where my recipe is, there's a link again to the Wowhead article down below for this as well. That goes a little bit more detail and will show you specifically which legendary drops where per class. It's a very good article and I encourage you to check it out. Final thing you're going to need to do to optimize your character during the first 2 weeks before Heroic Week comes out is the renowned grind. And I put grind in quotation marks for a very specific reason, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for those of you that don't know, renown is basically your reputation with your covenant. As we progress throughout Shadowlands, you'll increase your renown with your covenant. You'll gain access to transmog, pets, titles, mounts, cool stuff. There are 40 levels of renowned, and you unlock these things as you gain renowned. So renown level 1 gives different rewards than renown level 4, and when you hit level 5, you gain more rewards. It also unlocks powerful effects like legendary recipes, new layers of your soulbind tree, and it'll increase the rewards from some of the world quests in that particular zone. You're going to get renown through doing your campaign quests through your covenant, through doing world quests in the zone of your covenant. There's weekly covenant quests where you go out and be like an ambassador for your covenant or do dungeons for your covenant. These things will all gain you renown. This sounds like another farming thing that you have to do similar to Soul Ash where you need to do and get behind good news. It's not. Renown is actually not a farmable resource past a certain point. So there is going to be no endless farming of artifact or azurite power. So you can put your paddles away because you're not going to be going on a boat to an island this time. Instead, renown will be capped weekly. And unlike Soul Ash, however, there will be a catch-up mechanism. So let's say you're allowed to get 2 renown in the first week and 2 renown in the second week, but you can't play the first week because again, there's a big holiday going on and you had to make some sacrifices. Well, in week 2, you can actually get caught back up to everybody and get that full renown. Now, again, as I've said before, there is a separate link down in the description below to the Wowhead article that goes more in depth about the renown system and shows you a lot about it. Well, that's kind of the big breakdown for this article. Again, we're going to do another one for what you need to do from Heroic Week to Mythic Week and maybe go a little bit more in depth on some of the concepts like soulbinds and covenants and maybe dig a little bit deeper than we did today. But I wanted to give a good 1,000-foot overview of where we're at and what needs to be done immediately because with Shadowlands being so soon and being at a difficult time for a lot of people, it might be hard to digest a lot of that information. So I wanted to make sure that it was in your hands. There's also a a link to the checklist that I've been talking about down in the description below as well. Feel free to save it, make a copy, check it off as you go, or not. It's pretty simple. If you follow this video along, you'll not need the checklist probably, but I'm going to use it because it's simple and nice to know, and I'll be updating that checklist for things future of Shadowlands as well. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, make sure to leave a comment why. And also, leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking about Shadowlands. Did I miss something? Is there maybe more to do to min-max your character in the first 2 weeks that I'm thinking about? Or maybe I'm overthinking it. What do you think? If you want to talk about this in real time, please come check me out on my Twitch, where I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And for Shadowlands launch release, we're doing a charity event to help the National MS Society, and we're going to be raising money for that. And it's going to be like a mega stream where I'm going to level all my characters and do all my weekly stuff until I pass out from exhaustion. So that's what we're going to do. But I hope you liked this video. In the meantime, happy gaming.